This is Randi Levin. Welcome to Conversations with the Coach. And tonight, our program is about staying focused in our world of distractions. So first of all, I am Randi Levin, founder and CEO of Randi Levin Coaching, and I'm a certified transitional life strategist. I'm also an inspirational speaker, a thought leader, and a reinvention expert because life doesn't always play out in a straight line for us, nor should it. Today, my special guest is Sara Oblak, Speicher, MBA, life and business success strategist, helping women entrepreneurs build their businesses without sacrificing their lives. She herself is a wife, a mom to two little people, and a successful business owner and author. And her specialty is moms. We love moms. So Sara, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Randi, so much for having me today. Mom to mom, you might see my little people walking around. They're still awake upstairs. Somehow I hear my own echo. So,
you sound perfect here.
Okay, so I'll try to ignore that. What I do. Oh, that's perfect now. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Awesome. What I do, I work with moms in business who are trying to juggle both. I don't believe in balance. So we figure out priorities. Mm-hmm. And they're just tired of feeling overwhelmed, tired of feeling guilty for trying to do it all, to have it all. And as far as they're concerned, there's never enough money. At least it's not as consistent as I would like it to be. Mm-hmm. So we're figuring out ways on how to support them without tapping into the time that they should be spending with their families.
Right. Well, that's perfect. And it's true. And we're going to get to discussing balance. And I'm right there with you. I don't really believe in balance. I don't think there really is such a thing. And I think it gets us into trouble when we're searching for it. But back to that thought. Today's talk is centered on the concept of focus. Okay, so it'll be filled with actionable strategies. So anybody who's on and wants to stay on, there's really action steps that we're going to outline for you of things that you can start doing in your life right now that will help you focus and have clarity in all of those distractions that we all experience in our lives. We spend a lot of time being busy and doing in everything that we do, but not always equaling accomplishment in what that is. So the doing without the focus often keeps us frustrated and in place. So what are these distractions, right? Those shiny objects. Some of us think sometimes it's our children. Sometimes think it's our family. Some of us think that work is a distraction. We all know that the internet can be a distraction and social media can be a distraction. And so when we look at all of these things and always being on, how do you break away from this? And how do you grab onto what the differences are between multitasking and multi-focusing? Big difference. And the real piece of that is your relationship to time. And when we manage the clarity in the moment, we stay focused on the focus itself versus running after all the various things that we do. So, Sara, what are some of the challenges that moms face today?
I think you nailed it in introduction. You touched all the basics and the most important issues. I think that many times we blame it on the family. You know, they're distracting me. I can't focus because I gotta tend to them. But when you turn around, when you start to track what you're doing in your business, let's say we're talking about business, you quickly realize that somehow, out of the blue, it's been 3.5 hours since you logged in on Facebook to just post that one update. And the next thing you know, you're writing the next letter, the next blog, researching the next person who you perceive as a competition, and chatting with another group there when somebody has another issue that has nothing to do with what you were supposed to be doing. You know, it's just one of the things with social media, like you mentioned. I remember, I think it was last year, about a year and a half ago, Darren Hardy, creator of Success Magazine, he ran an interview series with some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. Mm-hmm. And the bottom line of every single thing that they said was focus. So I'm glad you brought this up because focus is not the most exciting word that we hear. It's oftentimes dismissed as, oh, you know, come on. Even my kid hates it when I say, come on, focus. And it's like, no, mommy, don't say the word. And sometimes it's that short-term focus, so to speak, holding the attention for 2 minutes, focusing on something for an hour and a half, and then taking a break. But in the long run, it's also the ability to say no to everything that's out of the alignment with what you're doing, and it's not immediately supporting you on your path towards the goal that you're working towards.
Mm-hmm.
And to remain focused, it's necessary to say no. And that was one of the lessons that I've learned as an athlete too. So.
And one of the key strategies, may I say, that we're pulling forward there is the ability to say no. And we all struggle with that because we all feel like people are judging us on some level of, why is she saying no? Or, am I not good enough? Or is this not good enough? Or it's not important enough. And sometimes it's really not that it's a no forever. It's a no right now in terms of prioritizing what we have on our plate and what we need to accomplish. And I think when we look at the challenges of mom, the challenges of women, I think there are some really unique challenges to moms who work from home. Now, we both fit into that lovely niche of moms work from home. And it brings on a whole nother set of rules and regulations and priorities and focus that sometimes you just shake your head and say, Want to speak to that a little bit? Because I know we all live it.
Where do I start? I was lucky enough to conduct a couple of interviews several months ago for one of my articles that I wrote. Mm-hmm. And I was asking other successful moms in business how they manage working from home. And some of the advice they gave me, some of the tools that they're resorting to were the most incredibly innovative, so to speak. Mm-hmm. One of them said that she has a neon sign above her desk that says open. So when she walks into the office, she turns it on. It's like, now I'm open for business. In the end of the day, she shuts it off and we're done. Another one opens the windows and says it out loud, open for business.
Oh, wow.
To kind of shift the mindset from, okay, I'm at home to now that I'm working. And what I've also learned along with what they told me is the hardest thing is to train your family members. It's like, oh, she's home. Yeah, sure. I can schedule maintenance to stop by. She's going to be home. Mm-hmm. And can you run errands, or can you, do this, or can you do that? And even myself, oh, I should do the laundry right now because the house is quiet. No, it's really another thing that you have to figure it out on your own, what kind of schedule works for you. And even put it on schedule and say, you know what, I'm focusing on my work now. Laundry will wait. So I wonder what's been your experience with that.
Right? It's true. It's really true. So the impact on us as women when we have that intersection between personal and professional, and we all face that. And it's, I think, a very different intersection than men face. There's a lot of components to that. What are some of the best things that you have found in making those two things work together?
I think the intuition is the thing that pulls it all together for women.
Yeah, it's true.
And sometimes it's hard to distinguish between what's the feeling that the intuition is telling you something and the gut feeling, and what's the fear. Because they sound and feel so similar.
Yes.
So you really have to tune in with yourself. And for full disclosure, if you and I were to talk 2 years ago, you would never hear me say anything like it.
See, that's how we evolve and we change and we figure out,
exactly
to make the things that are most valuable to us actually work. But it's hard. And one of the key things that we all are faced with is that G word. And it's not gold, it's guilt.
Exactly.
And we feel it. And it's indescribable when we feel it. And there's that little pull on the heartstrings, usually that little pull by little people at some point or another. But it's that, should I be doing something else? Or, am I missing this? And this could be the business deal. This could be closing the deal, or this could be your kids, whatever.
Yeah. And men face it too, because I had a couple of conversations with men in business who do feel the same thing. I guess they just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And my husband, when he left for work the other week, he said the same thing. So oftentimes I feel guilty for leaving you here and having to leave.
Mhm.
Oh, really? You do? I just don't think it's talked about a lot
Mhm.
for various reasons. And luckily, as women, stepping up, speaking out,
Mhm.
that's one of the issues that really gets addressed. And unfortunately, there still is that competition amongst, stay-at-home mom, work-at-home mom, working moms. Like, seriously? Can we just stop it and support each other instead? There's no need to add oil to the flame.
And you know what? I've lived on both sides of that fence, and
Yeah.
the competition is there on both sides. And there's
Fierce.
no one wins. No one wins. There's no right. There's no wrong. There's no right decision. Nobody's working harder or less or more. We're all balancing different things, and it's all for common goals. But they're different choices that we make, just like we make
Exactly.
different choices as to what we want to be when we grow up, and the type of businesses we want to have, and how many children we want to have. They're choices, and
Hmm.
they're unique, like we're all unique. So yes, supporting each other would be definitely to everyone's advantage, and it would take away some of the frustration, I think, that's there, or perceived frustration, because some of it, I think, is what we think somebody's thinking. Oh, she has the time to do that. I wish I had the time to do that, or vice versa. And
Always.
it's not really true. So yeah, that's definitely on the plate. And then
Yeah.
one of the other things I wanted to talk about before we get into some more of the strategies, and I'm going to invite on a guest in a moment, is time management. One of my favorite things. It's so true that our relationship to the time in our lives is really our relationship to life itself. And we all look at time differently. And some of us chase it, and some of us let it go, and some of us are waiting for tomorrow, and some of us are using it as an excuse. And we have, as women, biological clocks. So what does motherhood and business all have to do with how one is telling time and letting things tick?
If you ask my daughter, everything lasts 5 minutes in my life. I'll be with you in 5 minutes. So if she ever, has total different perception of what time is, it's my fault. I take responsibility on that. He's like, I'll be with you in 5 minutes, and then 3 hours later. No, but in whole seriousness, I think it's hard sometimes when the only tool we're offered is schedule. Okay, you want to manage time better? Here, start scheduling things. And it's not as easy. And I just spoke about it on my webinar a couple of days ago. Me, who grew up with a tight schedule as a student, as an athlete, when every single hour was accounted for. Because if I wasted it, it was never coming back, and the consequences were huge of that wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a mom and working from home, running my business, I learned the let go part. Okay, it happens, things happen. We're just gonna restructure things and building a business to the point that it's flexible enough, and knowing my family dynamics. So I know, okay, today is Tuesday. That's what usually happens on Tuesdays. Let me see how I can adjust. Do I need to get up 3 hours earlier to get my work done uninterrupted? Am I gonna be staying late?
Yeah.
Or am I gonna sit my kids in front of TV for 4 hours to do my work? It's a choice, but I think before we can even pull out the schedule, goes back to the part when we were talking about focus and saying no. First eliminate all the distractions, eliminate what doesn't support you, eliminate what doesn't work, what's not aligned with your goals, with your vision. Then whatever is left, okay, what can I do? And somebody you and I know very well always say, what can I do now?
What can I do now? They're words.
Exactly.
And they are the wisest words. And I have to say, if you want to have just a couple words that can be your mantra, what can I do now is your friend. Because it really rings true. And I have had so many instances where I myself have been overwhelmed about something, or in that time warp of whatever was going on. And when that's happened, I've reverted to those pearly words and said, okay, I can't do it all. I have to say no to something. I have to figure this out. So what can I do right now with the time that I have right now? Where can my focus be where I'm making some impact on something? It doesn't have to be a big something, but something toward a goal.
Exactly.
And it works. It's like magic. Pixie dust right there.
Or today, for example, I was suggested by another person that you and I know very well. We were on the accountability call with Emmy, and we were going over certain things. And she stopped me and it's like, Sarah, are you feeling that you're burning out? Yeah, I think I am. It's like, okay, so do whatever you suggested me 2 weeks ago. Like, what did I tell you to do? It's like, take the day off. I was like, oh, actually, it doesn't sound that bad. And sometimes you just have to step away, go for a walk, or go for a massage, or go for a run, punch the boxing bag, whatever works for you. Write a journal, color, whatever works.
My latest post for Power Network was really about, or actually for my newsletter that I did, was about scheduling that spa appointment or making time for that spa appointment. And it's not the spa appointment. It's that walk that you take outside. It's, the book that you're giving yourself permission to read. It's the thing you started that you didn't finish.
Yes.
The nap you want to take. It's carving out that extra hour for yourself. And what I often tell people too is if we take, look at all the distractions that are in your life. If you take 10 minutes and erase 10 minutes of those distractions every single day, at the end of the year, you get back 2.5 days in your life. Just by 10 minutes, 10 minutes less on Facebook, let's say, and 2.5 bonus days at the end of the year to do whatever you want because of that. So if you think about it in terms of, what that investment is and how you can pull out, some bonus time for yourself, different angles around it.
Yeah. And, it's that you mentioned it. Sometimes I kind of feel that I was told that I think one of the last years without cell phones prior to 500 network cables, channels on TV. And we had that in uninterrupted time. No cell phones. Right. You were gone.
Right.
And sometimes
that's it.
I sit down, I was like, how did we survive? And everything functioned. We still got from point A to point B. You had a meeting at certain point, certain time. You still made it happen without cell phones and stuff like that. And I'm thinking sometimes, like, you know what? As a parent, it's my responsibility to show my kids that they're not ran by the internet, by that you have to respond immediately. And it's things that I lack that I have to teach myself. But I'm like, if I don't show them, what are they going to grow up into?
They will never know in their lifetime. They will not, because they're only exposed to this. And this is reality for them. And being on over vacation and being on, if you're at the park or the zoo, wherever you are, you're in the car, you're in the house, the phone can ring, things can happen. You're being texted, you've got to do stuff. There's no down. So we've got to create that down. I have a really good question. Evelyn, if you want to log in, I'm happy to give you the seat. I don't know if we'll pick up more than audio, but we've got Evelyn Cucciara. I hope I didn't pronounce that incorrectly. And she is the toy tamer. I'm going to see if I can get her to come on. Not opening. Gotta love Blab. There she is. Let's see if we can get photo. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hey. Oh my God.
There's Evelyn. She is the toy tamer, and I'm not going to do her any justice, so I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell everyone what she does.
Okay.
She has a really great question too. So go ahead.
Sure. Well, thank you. First of all, let me apologize. I had no idea I was going to actually be on camera. So
there you are.
This is with me, and God only knows who's going to wander past behind me. So there you go. Thank you. Yes, I am the toy tamer. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. And basically, my current business is one that I get a whole lot of enjoyment out of and a whole lot of giving time back to people from. The Toy Tamer is custom playroom organizing, giving parents of young children not only their sanity, but their time that they spend cleaning up the playroom. So it's a win-win from everybody's side, for the kids as well as the parents. But I am like the guru of time management. It is my thing. It is what I strive. I swear, like, just like you said, you can get 2.5 days back at the end of the year. I think you could get more back if people stopped like just doing the same dumb things over and over.
And you're going to do a video to show us the most incredible, before and after, like, quickie videos where you see happening in front of you.
Right. I love those videos. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, thank you for having me on.
Oh, no problem. You had an incredible question. Do you want me to ask it? Or
yes, because I can't remember exactly what I wrote. And
so
I
the
know
question you typed to me earlier today was as follows. How do I deal with enjoying both, capitalized, the busy and the slow times with my business? When it's extra busy, I feel like it's teetering toward overwhelming. But when it's slow, I feel like all I do is for naught. So how do I learn to exploit and enjoy the best parts of both? And Sara, I know, has a perfect answer to this because she told me she does.
No, it is a great question. And Ellen, so nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us. Well, provided that you've been in business for 20 years, I'm pretty sure you know by now what are your quiet and busy seasons, right? Or times of the year.
Well, yes and no.
Times in the week or time of the month.
This is relatively new. I've been in different businesses for 20 years, but this one is about 1.5 years old.
Okay. So my recommendation would be first and foremost to try to track the trends to see what's going on. Because when you do that, you'll be able to predict better and plan better for two things. Once you realize that, okay, maybe January is a busy time of the year because of New Year resolutions, everybody's trying to better their lives.
Exactly.
You're super busy.
More toys.
Exactly. And that. And you just, you either outsource or you reschedule things in a way that you can have more time to focus on your clients, and then back end is taken care of in a different way through different channels in a different manner. Or on the other hand, try to communicate it in English, being that it's my second language sometimes it becomes an issue. When you know what are the trends, you can then take action in advance to change them. If you don't want to have the quiet season, okay, what do I need to do in order to build a business up to keep myself busy during the usually quiet time? Or on the other hand, you can just use the time for some in the office work, creative work, sit down, take back, vacation with your family, knowing that it's just a specific time that's going to pass based on the trends, based on the tracking that you recognized prior. For example, my mom has been in business. She had her own business for past 20 something years. And it's the same thing. September is the quietest ever. Every single year is quiet, as sometimes it's even scary. So it's like, you know what? I can fight it, or I can schedule the time to either come visit you or you come visit me with your family. So September is usually the time we fly back and forth because she's not risking anything. So that would be one of my recommendations. I wonder what.
Well, I think it's kind of
Randi
the whole idea of leaning into the downtime and being able to use that really to explore yourself. What's next? What's the next evolution? Where do you have time to think about the things that you don't have time to think about the rest of the time? So I think it's almost bonus time if you look at it from that vantage point. I know we all look at it and say, oh, well, why am I so quiet now? And, your mind starts to go with that. But looking at it and saying, okay, so where can I now refocus my energies? Where can I think about what's next? Where can I develop something else? Or, take those lunches and come up with those strategic alliances or whatever it is that may be the next step professionally or personally. So being able to use the downtime effectively. And then when you're in the upswing, we all know that it's kind of like a roller coaster, right? And we're going to talk about balance in just a minute, but life can be like a roller coaster. And so it goes up, it goes down. It's usually not flat. So we have to be able to embrace, the up and the down on it. And it's a curve. And, that I think makes the other sweeter, if you would. It's almost like a bittersweet arrangement. And, some people I think wish that it would be all year round. Like I was talking to my accountant and he said to me, he goes, gosh, I'm so busy. This is ridiculous. It was too bad that this doesn't happen like all year long so that it's paced out. And I said, that's the nature of what you do. So when you're in Florida or you're playing golf or you're doing whatever in downtime, you got to be able to embrace that because this is making you crazy. But it's the nature of the choices that we make and being able to do what resonates with you, particularly in that downtime, and use it as a bonus. Mm-hmm. That help? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it has helped. This is a week that's been very quiet. So what I've been doing instead is doing a lot of networking and going out to a lot of events that I normally never have time to do. So I think it's more of a mindset thing when I'm like, if I look at it as like, ooh, I get to go out and do these networking things as opposed to, oh, shoot, I have nothing better to do. Let me go and look at these networking things.
Yeah, but it's part of, and you do a lot of writing as well.
Exactly.
And so all these different things that we do and go to fuels thoughts and, things that lead to other things and
definitely
alignments that lead to other things. And so none of it is really wasted. It's things that sometimes we have time for and things that, we don't. And, being able to acknowledge both of that and accept both of those things, I guess. So,
sure.
But I wanted to go through some of the strategies that we had discussed together, and it really kind of comes down to what we said before. It's a lot of choices, and we don't often think, okay, we have a choice with this stuff, but we do have a choice to focus, and it's about creating habits. Actual habits, things that we do over and over and repeat and hopefully are successful at. So the first thing, looking at balance, okay, and Sara and I hate the word balance. To me, balance and perfection, they go hand in hand, and that's one of the issues about it. We tend to change things in our lives, but we think the balance is going to stay the same and that it should be, a straight, flat across thing and always be the same. And it's not. It's an up and down. And it's like the surfer. And I love to use this vision because we all think, the guy out on the surfboard, he knows what he's doing, right? So he's out there and the waves are pounding and he's riding those waves until he's not, until there's a big wave and he, wipes out. He's got to get back up. He knows how to do that because he's a great surfer, right? But he also knows that he can't anticipate every change of the tide, every switch of something that's going to go on any more than any of us can. And so in order to balance, he's got to be able to let go of it being perfect and to step into the ebb and the flow of his everyday or of what he loves. And so the same is true, I think, in life, really, with that. And there's certainly some tips to balancing, and some of it is not doing it all on your own. It's not only being able to say no, but being able to say yes to others, to delegate, to get the help that we need. And delegation doesn't necessarily mean that we have assistants. We may have a VA, we may have an assistant. It may be delegating within our family unit. So our spouse may have to do a food shop or a pickup or whatever that may be. It may be delegating because we've now hired the toy tamer to organize the playroom. It may be something like we're hiring a cleaning lady, perhaps, so that now, some of the laundry's done and the house isn't a pig pen and, we can focus on what we need to focus on, back to that word again. So it's a lot of it is about the support system and the delegation. Anything you want to add to that? I'm going to ask you, Evelyn, because you are so entrenched in organization, and that is something that you do. So in terms of balancing, in terms of getting organized.
Well, I do rely completely on systems because I feel the more systems you have, the less time you have to spend thinking about it. Mm-hmm. So like I have systems for meals. Like if you ask me now, I know what we're having for dinner for the next week.
Really?
So
what I'm having?
Yeah. So but it just frees me up. So that way I only have to go to the supermarket once a week. I know what days I'm doing because I work from home also. So it's the constant balance. I have 3 boys. So it's a constant balance of who needs what, when, who's working. My boys are older, so who's working, who needs the car. So it's kind of like, if I didn't have these systems to rely upon, I would be going crazy.
Yeah.
So since the systems are already there, I've done the work once, then I don't have to worry about it. So I can free up my mind to handle the things when you get the sudden, like, wrench thrown in your plans or whatever. It gives you the freedom to function.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely does. Sara, anything you want to add to the wonderful world of balance in terms of, because people always ask that. I can't balance it all. I'm overwhelmed. I need to learn to how to manage my time and balance better. So what do we do with these people?
I usually take them through the 4 steps. Believe it or not, the 4 steps. I used to hate it. 4 steps. There's never such a thing as 4 steps, but what we do first, to piggyback on what you and Evelyn said, elimination. Starting to eliminate things that are not necessary, streamlining the ones that stay, including putting systems in place, automating as much as possible. And that, there's a fine line between that automation that supports you and automation that steals your time because you have to manage now all those automated things. And then outsourcing. And I'm actually going to steal a quote from Tony Robbins from one of his interviews when he was talking about outsourcing. He said you can delegate or you can leverage. Delegation means you tell that person what to do, how to do it, you manage, you supervise the outcomes, and you keep, hovering over them to make sure everything's done. Or you leverage, say this is what I need, this is by when, that's my budget, and this is why. Right. Now go do your thing, come back to me with the results. And that's something to free up a lot of your time. What do you want to do? Do you want delegate and really be an extension of this person, or just really want to get off your plate?
I like that. I like that a lot.
So, but yeah,
and I think to Evelyn's point before, that consistency is a big player in being able to balance things effectively. And like you mentioned, so I know what your meals are going to be, or what everyone's schedule is, or just as importantly, you've scheduled yourself into your own calendar, and so you've got these wonderful
definitely.
To take care of yourself in some way, whatever way that is, whether it's exercise, whether it's doctor's appointments, whatever it may be. But it's all part of balancing, because I know, very often people feel overwhelmed or out of sync when they're not devoting enough time to what their own needs are going to be, and we're taking care of everybody else's, clients, children, husbands, families, extended families, community, what the school needs, what this one needs. And then all of a sudden we turn around and say, okay, when was the last time that I did X? And X may be a haircut. It's not some extravagant thing. But these are important things. And so even just taking the time to say, okay, I'm going to take 15 minutes and make all these appointments, that's important. And that's about, bringing that balance back to you a little bit. So talking then about productivity and time management and ways to take a look at that. One of the favorite things that I like talking about with time management is when we think about going to the theater, and we think about the idea that you see shows and there's almost always an intermission. Sometimes if it's a very long show, there's even 2 intermissions. And there's a reason for that. You think about the books that we read and how they're broken into chapters. There's a reason for that. We don't open a book usually and read, from page 1 to page 300 without those breaks. Yet we sometimes approach our day that way. We say the kids are in school or whatever it is that we're doing, we need to do X, and we're going to just charge right into that. And we don't give ourselves the break within that to take our own intermission, to pause between our own chapters. And so we either get ourselves out of focus and start the multitasking thing, or we burn out a little bit and we don't really achieve what we want to achieve because we're not stopping. Anybody have anything to add to that? In terms of the pause, one of my favorite things.
I think you pretty much covered it all. And I would also add that it really depends. Sometimes we look for that 2-hour, 3-hour slot. Okay, now I have 3 hours, let me focus. It's not always the case. Sometimes all you have is 15 minutes. So use those 15 minutes as best as you can to really get things done that you want to get done, not hop on a Facebook and then, turn around. It's like, oh, what was it supposed to be doing?
Right.
The day goes by.
And then the Facebook
I have nothing
became
to show for.
the end of the chapter. You know what I'm saying? Versus something that's more productive to you or something that may be interesting to you. So yeah, I think it's kind of how we look at that and how we break it up. Some people break it up even within the hour, like they say 30 minutes on or 60 minutes on, and then, do that 10-minute break, go for the walk, do something else, call a friend, have a snack, whatever it is. I think it depends on the person, but I think it's all about how we, keep those distractions from destroying what we're trying to accomplish and taking over for us.
Exactly. And then some people say, start with the most difficult task in the morning to get it out of the way. And there are others who believe in starting the day off with the one that's the easiest to achieve. So you kind of give yourself motivation to move forward. So it's, again, whatever works for you as an individual.
Back to Evelyn's point,
figure out
systems and consistency in there. So, yeah.
I find that whenever I'm sitting down to do computer work or anything, I always use an actual timer because, time goes so fast. You don't know as you've been scanning cat videos for the last 10 minutes. But if you set a timer, and just like Sara was saying, sometimes you only have a 15-minute block of time. So if I know I've only got 15 minutes to do XYZ, I'll set the timer because that will make sure that I stay on track. And when it beeps, I know I'm done and move on. So that way I don't spend time wasting doing things that, cutting into the hour that I wanted to allot to something else.
Evelyn, how long do you set the timer for when you do it? What seems to work?
Well, it all depends on what I'm doing, but and how much time I have. It's really more of a question of how much time do I have before I have to do the next thing. That determines what I'm setting the timer for.
To that point, yeah.
But I find that it just helps so much because I don't have to keep checking the clock. Otherwise, you're spending half the time checking the clock and you're using up that time that you could be doing whatever, the email to the customer or whatever it is you needed to be doing.
Exactly. So something gets done in there.
And also to add to the point, sometimes we overwhelm ourselves with those big projects, big ideas. It's like, oh, I'll never get it done because as a whole, yes, it takes 3 days to complete it. But when you break it down into steps, it's like 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 30 minutes there.
Yep.
And when you put it
takes the overwhelm right out of it. And when you start to break it down, and I know we always talk about that and people say, oh, yeah. But until you actually do it and you pull apart all these little pieces, you don't realize that that's kind of the way to go because it's so much more desirable to attack some of these things and to take it apart, because when we look at the whole of it, there is just this, massive thing to do usually. And then we either put it off or we do, we start playing with it instead of actually attacking it the way we need to.
Do you ever find that some people don't have the ability to break a larger task down to smaller tasks?
Correct, which is why they have to hire a coach.
Right, exactly. So I was going to say, Sara, so what would be your opinion? Like if you have a list of things, like how do you decide which it is you're going to do first? Or like how do you decide, I mean, I'm not presenting this quite right, but if you have a whole list of things, do you go with what your gut is saying you should do first? Or do you go with what, you want to do first? Or how, is there a system? Is there a way that's more productive?
I love the question. It all ties into what my goals are. So in business, for example, my first goal is business development and cash flow. So when I have the choice between writing another blog or picking up a phone and making another phone call, networking, obviously the second one's going to be more immediately connected to generating the cash flow than the first one. So that's one thing. And then another thing is what excites me, what I can do the day, what excites me, what's aligned with what I'm trying to do, with my goals, with my strengths. Those are some of the things. And to take it a little further, though, I'm a huge believer in reverse engineering. So when I have something that's a big task and I just don't know how to tackle it, when to do it, I set myself a deadline when it needs to be done and then break it backwards. Okay, what does need to happen to achieve that? And okay, how much time do I have? What are going to be some of the distractions? What happens if I have to take a day off for take the kid to a doctor? Can I afford to do that? I can't always rely to stay up until midnight, because there are days when I'm done at 9 p.m. It's like, I can't keep my eyes open. And there are days when I'm up at 3 a.m. when my husband comes from work. He's like, you're still up? I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'm good. But to go back to answer your question, it's also what drives me. Because things that really excite and drive me, I don't have problem. They're the ones that are not so exciting and scary and way out of my comfort zone that I resist the most. And that's when I reach out to my support people and I was like, okay, this is what I really need to do. Can you kick my butt if I don't? And they hold me accountable. They push me. And
I love that. I love that reverse engineering. And it's a very great way to go because it allows you to look at the whole picture, where we may not look at the whole picture.
I think I've done that with cooking holiday meals, but not with anything else.
Is that
because you do that when you're cooking because you're like, okay, everything's got to be ready by blah, blah, blah. So let's go backwards. But I don't think I've done it with other things.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Post-its, you can do a lot of things with Post-it notes. When you have a blank wall and just write it all down, you put it in different groups. See, okay, this works, that doesn't flow, I don't like this. Exactly. And I just did an exercise with a client, actually, and I'm stealing that from a coach of mine, going back to schedule. It's like, just breaking down things into blocks of time. It doesn't have to be, okay, from 3 to 1, I'm doing this. From 4 to 2, I'm doing this, or 2 to 4. But just to have kind of a baseline of things to go to in terms of, what can I do now? What do I have to do? Scheduling yourself, that's a new thing for me. Self-care, it's a brand new word in my vocabulary. Randi was kind enough to keep pushing me.
I'm always asking,
what are you doing today for yourself?
In fact, that's the next thing up that I wanted to talk about, what I call the business of you, because we all know what our real businesses are, what the revenue businesses are. We know what our family businesses are, but the business of you, that's kind of taboo sometimes. So taking that time for that self-care, taking that time to evaluate and pause and do the things that are important just for you really fuels the rest of it and makes the rest of it click and work. It's not a race, as we've discussed, or a single event. It's the sum total of all of the things that we do. And so, we want to be cautious not to leave ourselves out of the mix in that. So, yeah.
I found lately what I do that is kind of a holdover from corporate is I take a lunch hour every day. And I actually sit and I eat lunch and I read a book and I have nothing to do with business. I'm not reading any business books. I'm just reading complete fiction. And I find looking forward to that lunch hour, that break really gives me the energy to go back and attack whatever the next thing is.
Exactly. So, there's to the same point of taking that intermission or taking that pause between the chapters, it's the same thing. And I think that very often we get caught up in, I have 5 hours and I got to do this now. And you just do this blitz instead of, breaking down the pieces to where you can take that moment for yourself, whatever that is. And it's something as simple as eating. Of course, we have to eat, but it's different in eating in the kitchen and sitting like a human or meeting someone for lunch, reading a book and taking your time and enjoying and chewing and swallowing. And there's a difference in bringing the sandwich to your computer and not even aware that you just ate it.
Oh, yeah. A huge wake-up call for me was when I called my doctor's office, and it was during lunch hour. And they have an answering system that says, between this and this hour, we're closed for lunch. It's like, hey, they're dealing with saving people's lives. And they take
all of them. And it never used to be that way.
But
I think,
for a lunch break.
In response to all the things we're talking about here, and all the distractions that are in the world, they had to do this for themselves and just say, hey, we got to stop the noise for a little bit and pause and let everybody eat at the same time. And we come back and we've got the same coverage again. And it's the same idea. It really is.
Yeah. Okay. There's a thing I'm doing in the morning with my 2 little people. I'm training them when I have coffee cup on the table. Mommy does not exist. So they're 3.5 and 1. So they come around the corner. It's like, oh, she's still drinking coffee. I was like, yep. Mommy, are you done with coffee? Not yet.
And then
Okay.
understanding our focus is really understanding our value, and what price we put on all the things that we do, even the ones that are not revenue generating. And to your point before, Evelyn, going to a networking event, well, you're spending money usually to do that. It's not creating money in front of you, but it's a long range creation of that. It's an investment in time and energy, just as, all these other things that we can do that speak to our value. Anything in particular that either of you do that measures value in maybe a different way that isn't monetary?
Boy, that's like a tough question. I'm like, I don't know. What do I do?
Well, I'm going to answer it myself because you know what? Even doing these blabs, even doing these conversations with the coach, for me, I'm giving back value to the community, to my coaching community, to anybody who wants to listen and wants great strategy and great content. And I love doing this. And so for me, there's a value in this. There's no paycheck that comes with it. CBS isn't hiring me for this.
Not yet. Not yet.
That could be tomorrow.
Exactly.
But the joy is in the doing, and the value is in the product of what it is. And the end result will hopefully be giving people information who will essentially, be able to use that and, use my services, your services, et cetera, based on, know, like, and trust that they get through these videos. So that for me would be a way of, kind of positioning value that may be a little atypical than the rest.
Right. No, I see what you mean. I mean, I do a lot of talks at libraries and such like that, explaining how to tame your own toys, that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I do a blog post every week with that
there's
same
no
concept.
price that you can put on something like that because you know what you know, and sharing that with the world is a very empowering thing. It's a wonderful non-monetary paycheck, so to speak.
Yes, and you can almost see it on people's faces when they suddenly get what you're talking about.
I know my own response to it, and I know how good I feel about doing it, and that's a big charge for me. It's a big plus for me in coaching and in being able to have this kind of a platform. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is just wrapping up our positioning on focus. One of the things I read recently, and I thought this was kind of a wonderful spin on things, is some suggestions, and I saw it in a couple of different places, about actually scheduling time for stress, time to worry. So that, sometimes we even wake up in the morning and say, oh gosh, what if I don't get that client today? What if, we have that meeting and they think I'm an idiot? Or what if? And we start this worry thing. And we all know what happens when we do that. We don't usually get a lot done. There's not usually a lot accomplished because we're zapping our energy. We're lowering our energy levels, and we're not interfacing the way we need to with our day. And so one of the things that these people had suggested was, just come up with a time of day. Maybe it's 7:00 at night. Maybe it's first thing in the morning. Maybe it's at that high noon break where you say, okay, this is going to be my stress 15 or my stress 30 minutes. And so if these issues come up for you before then, you can kind of say, okay, let them go. Because at 12 noon, I'm going to have
and you better set a hour. So you don't miss that 12 noon time, right?
And when it's done, I'm done. I move on. What do you guys think about that?
I've never heard of that before. It's an interesting idea. But what I personally do, I have Day Designer. For those who don't know, it's kind of extended version of a schedule. So I'm trying to get into a habit of writing every morning and in the evening before the day ends. And just picking up whenever I have a worry comes up, just writing it down in the form of question. Like a question to the universe or whatever, what's the reason for this worry? What am I supposed to be doing? What's about to come up?
Time to do
and
that,
then just let it go.
Night. People don't normally do it at night, but I think it's a great way of clearing the energies, closing the book on it, go to sleep, and you wake up and you're kind of repositioned. You've said your piece, and also looking at what did go right, because for everything that you're maybe stressing over or worrying about, or, whatever may be antagonizing you at the moment, there's probably things that did go right. And, how can you do more of that? Where can you reposition that?
Exactly. And it's an exercise I just did with my client today when it became evident that she was focusing on so much on what there is not and what she cannot do. Like, okay, let's start making a list of things that are going well, that you can do. And as we went through, it's like, wow, my goodness. And it's so hard to focus on the negative. That if you make it a habit to either once a day or just make a list and have it in your wallet or a folder in a computer with all the praises you get from your clients, from your friends. There was on Pinterest a gratitude jar. And somebody had a jar, and for every single good thing that happened, they wrote a note and put it in there.
Birthday. Yeah.
Or just whenever you have one of those
true. We forget about all these little nuances. Just even a compliment that somebody gives you in passing, it's worthy and it's got value to it. And you want to be able to celebrate all those little pieces.
It's interesting when Sara was just speaking about that. This thought popped into my head that I think as women, we are natural fixers. We look for problems. We try to fix things because it gives us some sort of self-gratification when we fix things. So as a result, instead of looking at the things, like the good things that have happened, we're looking for the problems. Our feelers are out for the problems so that we can find them and fix them so that we can then move on to the next problem without even saying, oh, gee, I fixed that. That was good. It's crazy. It's like a crazy circle. So that's why I guess things like the gratitude jar, just a list of things that have gone well or whatever, or even just what you're grateful for every night before you go to sleep really makes a difference. Because it makes us stop and pause as opposed to, okay, what else needs to be fixed? What's going wrong? What do I got to take care of?
Exactly, because we forget. Something very, very simple and small, but it all adds up. And if you put all those little pieces of paper together, you have a tapestry of some really great stuff. And, it's food for thought for the things that might not be going quite as well. Definitely, in terms of turning that focus around. So I want to thank you both, and I want to just give some shout outs to all of us and have us each go through and say what we're doing, where people can find us, all that kind of stuff, because this is going to live on in YouTube land. And so I'll go first. I want to invite everyone to visit me on my website at www.randi, Levin, Levin, coaching.com. And I so welcome questions, feedback, comments, any concerns you may have, anything at all, at randilevincoaching.com. And I have a gift for everyone. I have a free ebook, 9 actionable tips for mastering your road to reinvention. And that's available on my website, again, www.randilevincoaching.com. And I have a whole bunch of events coming up. I have 2 blabs, one on 4/18 with special guest and business and success coach Ivy Slater, and it's called It's Only Money. And we're going to be talking all about money and what your relationship to money is and what that means for you. And I have a very special lab coming up on 5/6, Mother's Day weekend. It's going to be a lunch and learn lab, Moms on Moms, MOM. And there's going to be 4 of us involved. It's myself, Jen Marchetti, CEO and founder of Ridgewood Moms and Power Network, Noreen Hefferman, mom, blogger, and writer, and Fern Weiss, parent coach and educator. So that's on 5/8. And I've got a bunch of live things. Recoloring Life at Emerson Community School on 4/19 for anyone who's local. Recoloring Energy on 5/3 at Bergen Community College. Manage Your Time, Manage Your Life, Emerson Community School on 5/2. Women in Worth event, Sizzling Summer 16, Relaunching Your Money, Your Mindset, Your Style, Morgan Stanley. And that's coming up on the 20th of May. So that's me. Sara, where are you at?
How can we compete with that?
Well, first and foremost, Randi, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast, and I hope the chat that we had was helpful for those who were listening and are going to be listening to the recording. Where people can find me is the website, www.saraoblakspeicher.com. I certainly hope it's in the notes because spelling is pretty tricky. And also on Facebook. I think the best way to find me on Facebook is to search for a private group, the Inner Circle of Kick-Ass Entrepreneurs. I'm super active there. They can get access to me. A ton of videos, conversations, resources, and also a free gift, either on Facebook, LinkedIn. Just Google me up. You'll find me. I'm all over the place. Is a free PDF, the 5 steps to mom-friendly, profitable,
awesome.
and
Evelyn,
fulfilling
where
business.
do you do it?
Okay, well, I am
Always
at
do that.
thetoytamer.com, so www.thetoytamer.com. You can see some of those cool videos that Randy was referring to, the before and afters, which are now down to like a minute and a half from start to finish, which is kind of cool. I also do a blog post every week for anybody who's in the northern New Jersey area about things to do with your kids, things to do on date night, basically just ways to make your life simpler and easier. And I will be there to see you on May the 20th, Randy. We get to actually meet face to face. So that's
Awesome.
exciting. And if anybody's looking for me on Facebook, it's the Toy Tamer. Basically, just type in the Toy Tamer. I'm the only Toy Tamer. So there you go.
The one and only.
Exactly.
You can probably Google all of us and find us very simply. I know you can for myself. And I hope that people do reach out. And thank you all for making this wonderful tonight.
Thank you so much, Randy.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
So
Bye.
Bye-bye.